Alright, so this is the new HTPC build. I'm going to do a build overview and talk about all the products that are in it, and then I'm also going to do a review of some of those products, including the first one, which I've already done an unboxing of, which is the Superflower SF 500 P14XE 500 watt power supply. It's pretty good. You can see that they have these guys here, which are the semi-modular part of the power supply. They've got these little microphone cable inputs that would look like it would go into a PA system of some kind, which is really cool. It's got the LED lights around the outside of it. It's got a blue LED fan on the inside that's not so bright, and you can only barely see a little bit of blue light under it. I'm going to take a video with the lights off in a minute. Going on, I'm using the Asus. It's a B75 chipset. I don't remember the exact model number, but I will put it in the notes. At any rate, it comes with one SATA 3 port and 5 SATA 2, 4 of which are side mounted, which is really cool. It makes the cable management look a lot nicer, as opposed to having them come up and out and around, such as this USB 3/2 here, which kind of looks a little bit awkward if you look at it from this angle. It's got that nice arc, just like the 24-pin power to the motherboard here. So it's not as aesthetically pleasing as having the side-mounted SATA here. At any rate, I've got a 300M TP-Link wireless card that I'm eventually going to switch out for the gigabit as soon as I get around to running a cable. I've got the GT610 from NVIDIA, which is specifically designed for the HTPC. It comes with a passively cooled, well, it is passively cooled, so it's fanless. It looks really cool. I like the heatsink a lot. I like the design of it. The CPU I'm running is you can't see it of course, but Pentium G2020, which I know that it has the Intel HD graphics on it. It's running the Intel HD 2500 from what I read, and I went with the GT610 anyway because it did slightly outperform the Intel HD 3000. I'm gonna play around with both of them, and if I find that there's not much difference in the G2020, which I'm assuming that's what I'm gonna find, I'll probably get rid of the GT610, so we'll see what happens. I'm running 8 gigabytes of the Corsair Vengeance. I had a 2x4 gigabyte kit from Corsair that went bad in my gaming rig, so I sent it back and bought another one in the meantime whenever the prices were really cheap. That was about nearly a year ago. And I was running 16 gigabytes in my gaming rig, but I really didn't notice that much of a difference, even when video editing, so I decided to pop in the 8 gigabytes in my HTPC and just pull them out of my gaming rig. I'm running a DeepCool tower here. It's got 4 copper heat pipes on it. The fan's really quiet, and all of this is inside of the BitFenix Raider case. I'm going to go around to the front in a minute here, but I want to focus on the inside. It comes with 2 120mm fans, and these fans are supposed to be really good because they are very quiet and they move quite a bit of air. There's a lot of air pushing through here. And then also it came with one in the back. So the case comes with 3 fans, and then I have the CPU fan set up with a push-pull configuration. Mostly focusing on the positives now. I'm going to go into the negatives in a bit, some of the things that I ran into, some of the problems that I ran into when doing this build. I'm running 5 hard drives inside for a total of 5.5 terabytes. No, exactly 5 terabytes. Sorry, I pulled one of the drives to do something else with it. I've got 2 terabytes up top here. I've got 2 500 gigabytes. One of them is a 2.5 inch. And then I've got a little 40 gigabyte down here with Windows 8 that I was kind of playing with, but I decided not to go with Windows 8, so I just partitioned the 500 gigabyte. It's a 7200 RPM drive, and Windows 7 Ultimate runs pretty well with it until I get around to getting an SSD. Once I determine what size, if I'm going to go 60 or 128. It is an HTPC after all. I'm not planning on doing any gaming or anything on it. It's just basically going to be an HTPC / file server. So anyway, got 5 hard drives in there now. This is what the hard drive bays look like. Got the BitFenix logo. You can fit 6 3.5-inch drives in there, or 7 2.5-inch, here being the holes for the 2.5-inch. And then down at the bottom here, I say 7. If you could see that, there's 4 holes down there for another 2.5-inch drive. So that would bring the total to 7 2.5-inch or 6 3.5-inch, which is really nice. They pop in there very well, just like that. Another thing that I wanted to show you was on the side here, where these pins are for the screws, for the hard drive, they pop out like this, and they have these nice little rubber grommets on the side. That one didn't function correctly. Let me get another one here. So it pops out just like that. Let me try to focus. Alright, there we go. Pops up just like that. And then when you put the hard drive in, you pop it back in, and it's got these rubber grommets around it for noise suppression, I guess. So we'll snap that back in there. Once you put the hard drive in, they're really stiff, really sturdy. Not going to get much movement out of that. Very quiet. So let's move on to the top of the case. We'll go to the top first. You see the top of the case has 4 USB 3, which is backwards compatible with USB 2.0. I'm only using these 2 here. I'm not using these 2, and one of the reasons is because the way the cable management is set up in the case and the ports on the motherboard, I would have had this odd wire sticking out that I didn't really like for the USB 2.0 ports. So I'm only going to go with these 2, plus being that it's an HTPC, there's really no need to have 4 USB ports on the top here. I'm only going to be using 1, and probably in the back, depending on my reception, for the Logitech K400, which I'm going to do an unboxing of later, so you could take a look at that. Of course, you have the microphone and the headset, which is pretty much useless. Thought about not even connecting it to the motherboard. So this is the front of the case. It's got the BitFenix logo. It's got a nice mesh grill on the front. The BitFenix, you can see that the decal is very bright and shiny. I'm going to try and angle it up so the light's not in it. On Linus Tech Tips, he said that it looked metal. It's actually not metal, it's plastic, and it has like a plastic, like holographic decal sticker sort of on the front. I haven't determined if it's a sticker or what, but at any rate, it's not metallic. There is a little bit of glue residue on it, which is one of the things that I'm not so happy about, but generally speaking, it looks good from far away, and you really have to get on it to see that glue residue. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.25-inch bays. And behind all of this, there's like a foam filter to capture all the dust and whatnot, which is cool. And it runs all the way from the top bay here, all the way down to the bottom down here. So all that air that's being sucked in by those 2 fans in the front, it's being sucked right into that dust. Now the only thing is that if you want to clean it, you're going to have to pop this guy off, which isn't so hard. And I might show that later. This is the back. Got a couple of things. We got the 24-pin wire here. We got the 4-pin CPU. This is the audio to the front. We've got our SATA cables coming through here. I coiled them just so I could kind of manage them a little better here instead of trying to run them around, because I didn't have any short SATA cables. So what I did was I just coiled them, and whenever I shut the case, they kind of lie flat like that, so they're not getting bent or anything. And you can see the SATA power connectors looping up through here. Also, let's see what else is coming through. I've got the fan connector here for the top fan controller, which is right here next to the reset switch, power switch, HDD light, power light, and this is the fan controller right here. I'm just going to leave it on max most of the time because the PC tends to be pretty quiet with these good BitFenix fans inside. So going back here, I've got the fan power running up through here. There's actually a hole right here, and you can see the SATA 3 cable running through there. What's really cool about this case, especially the cable management, is that I was able to run those cables through the side here. So it's running through the side, and it goes up through the top here, where all the control boards are for all these components up top. So I will still be in the future able to use all 4 of the 5 1/4 inch bays, because all those wires are going to be here. They're not going to be taking up any slots. So I could just pop in a 5 1/4 to 3 1/2 inch mount to add more hard drives to the file server in the future, which is really cool. So if you're worried about cable management with this case, there's a lot of room here, and there's also a lot of room here to run wires, which is really awesome. And the top, if you're not going to be doing any water cooling, or if you're not going to install, I think it's a 220 millimeter fan that you could fit at the top. I could be wrong on that, I'll have to check. But there's a lot of place here to run cables, and you can see, if you could kind of see through it, there's holes running through there where you could run more cables if you're really into cable management and trying to hide everything. I did a pretty decent job with hiding all the cables, so kind of happy with that. If you look at the back of the case, there are your water cooling holes. You've got the back I/O ports, video card, and the wireless card, and you can kind of see the blue there in the back. The power supply has an on-off switch. The other thing about the case is you have access to the back of the CPU for your CPU cooler mounting and whatnot. So on to the negatives. One of the things that I really didn't like about this case was the holes that come pre-drilled for the motherboard were not threaded, and they were too small for the posts that came with the case. So what I had to do was I had to break out the drill and make the holes slightly bigger, and then try to get those posts in there. It was a bit of a hassle. Wasn't too happy about that. The other thing is with the Raider case, the HD audio and the microphone on the front does not come sleeved all the way to the end there, so you have those extra wires sticking out that are colorful. And if you're really into the aesthetics of the inside of your case, which this doesn't even have a window, so nobody will ever see it, but kind of a drawback if you do decide to put a window, if you do decide to mod it. You will have some color, so you'll have to sleeve it, but if you do decide to mod it and put a window, you'd probably be so gung-ho that you would end up sleeving the cables yourself anyway, so I can't imagine that that would be a huge problem. The other thing is that the power supply, the 24 pin is not sleeved to the end, and the cables are not individually sleeved, so you do have some color in there. And then again at the top for the 4 pin, and you can see at the top up here, I actually had to, up at the top there, I had to fold the other 4 pin back because it came with an 8 pin. But my motherboard only has a 4 pin for the CPU because I'm only running the Pentium G2020 on this. So that's a couple of the bad things. Another thing is that the case in the back appears to be bent. So I'll give you an example of what I mean here. You can see that the video card hole and the network card hole doesn't line up. And if you look through there, you can actually see that the motherboard is flush with the side of the case. So it's not a matter of moving the motherboard over. It's actually that the back of the case is flexed, and if I push, you can see that the hole kind of lines up. I don't want to do it now because it's on. I don't want to push anything out of the way, but if you push hard enough, I can actually line the holes up. Now if I was to try to push this forward, the hole would line up, but the card would pop out of its socket. So it starts flush at the bottom, and as it goes up, it's slowly, there's a gap that slowly opens up to the top here. So this is flat, this is flat, the case is warped out. So that's kind of a pain. I'm going to try and warp it back and see if I can't, or at least push it back and see if I can't put a screw in there to stabilize a video card, because it does fall, which is kind of annoying. Let me think, what else was there? Oh yeah, when I received the case, the top part here was, it should be flush right here. But what happened was, whenever they put it on, they pushed so hard that it actually put a stress fracture here and on this side, and it snapped it, and all of this was pushed down about a ½ inch over this here, over the actual case, so you can still see the line. But after I popped it off, it went back into place. It's on the back, so I'm not so worried about it. I'm not going to fool with sending it back to the manufacturer or anything like that. But kind of a quality control concern on the part of BitFenix, considering the post holes for the motherboard as well as the stress fracture here, and the bent case, of course, in the back. But generally speaking, I really like the case itself. It looks very good. The blue looks really nice with the black. I like the way the tower is. It's going to sit right next to the media center. It's just this black ominous tower with the BitFenix logo at the bottom, which looks really cool. I know people are going to say, well, it's a little big for a HTPC, but it's functioning as an HTPC and file server. So I'm not so worried about that. It doesn't make a lot of noise, even though it has 5 hard drives in it. And I repurposed my old computer for Windows Home Server. I really liked Windows Home Server, but it really didn't serve any purpose besides backing up everything whenever I walked into the house, which basically I could use SyncToy to do that for me if I put everything on the network. So in this situation, I'll have a file server and an HTPC as opposed to just a server, and it looks a lot better than the old one, which is on the floor over there. So other than that, that's the HTPC, and I hope that it gives you an idea of the BitFenix Raider as well as the Superflower 500 watt power supply there. Alright guys, that's it.